This is TomoNews for Monday, April 11th.
Man beaten unconscious by cops in case of mistaken identity. A Michigan man has filed a federal lawsuit after 2 law enforcement officials beat him unconscious in a case of mistaken identity from 2 years ago. James King was walking to his summer job in July of 2014 when FBI agents Douglas Brownback and Grand Rapids detective Todd Allen approached him. They thought the 23-year-old matched a vague description of another suspect. The lawsuit alleges they were operating undercover and didn't identify themselves as law enforcement at the time. King didn't notice their badges on lanyards. He thought he was being mugged when Brownback took his wallet, so he tried to flee. The 2 officers reportedly tackled him to the ground. Allen then allegedly put King in a chokehold that made him unconscious. The lawsuit alleges that King soon woke up and reportedly bit Allen's arm. It's here that the detective reportedly says he started hitting Allen as fast and as hard as he could as many times as he could. Concerned bypassers called 911. The responding officers allegedly convinced witnesses to delete footage of the beatdown from their phones because undercover cops were present. The cops later said they'd arrested King because he had no ID on him at the time. The guy they were after, home invasion suspect Aaron Davison, was eventually caught, albeit less black and blue. So, the cops and feds apologised over this case of mistaken identity, right? No. They slapped King with 3 felonies, though a jury later cleared him of those charges after a prolonged legal battle. And now the authorities have got a lawsuit filled with damning allegations on their hands. Seems to us that this mess could have been avoided with a simple apology from the cops. Agree?
2 teens in school rendition of Sweeney Todd have their necks sliced. A New Zealand high school put on a performance of Sweeney Todd, the popular opera about a demon barber on Fleet Street. However, the show took a dark and unexpected twist on opening night, leaving 2 16-year-old actors with bloody neck injuries. The play, which debuted on April 6th, was moving along as planned, but entered some scary territory during the scenes which had the boys sitting in the barber's chair. The scenes called for Sweeney Todd to slit the throat of each boy, and though the blade used was deemed safe by school officials, apparently it wasn't as dull as originally thought. On 2 occasions during the play, the actors actually suffered ghastly cuts to the neck, one with serious wounds and the other with minor injuries. An audience member interviewed said there was no announcement made during the show that any mishap had taken place. The prop blade in question was reportedly purchased at a local antique shop. It was filed down, wrapped in foam and duct tape, and was used during rehearsals without issue. The 2 students were released from hospital the following day, and all remaining performances of the show have now been cancelled. Muslim shopkeeper wishing Happy Easter stabbed 30 times in store. A Muslim shopkeeper in Glasgow, Scotland was brutally murdered outside his convenience store the day before Good Friday. Now, 32-year-old Uber driver Tanveer Ahmed has come forward and admitted to the killing. Being a member of the Ahmadi Islamic community, which promotes love for all, hatred for none, Shah often made a point of wishing people a happy Easter. On March 24th, Shah had posted a message on social media that said, "Good Friday and very happy Easter to my beloved Christian nation." About 4 hours later, a grey Volkswagen Passat rolled up to the convenience store, and Tanveer Ahmed got out of the car. Ahmed came with a purpose, which was to put an end to Shah's life, and in psychotic fashion, as it would seem. He reportedly stabbed the poor shopkeeper 30 times until he lay lifeless on the ground. He then stomped on Shah's head a few times before exiting the bloody scene and leaving Shah to die. Tanveer Ahmed admitted to the murder and stated that he believed Shah claimed to be a prophet, disrespecting the Prophet Muhammad. He claims the attack was not motivated by anything related to Christianity or any other religion. A vigil was held in memory of the 40-year-old Shah, with neighbors calling him a wonderful man and beloved member of his local community. A GoFundMe page has also been set up to help support his family, pulling in more than £111,000 in donations over the past 2 weeks.
Help sign on the beach saves 3 castaways. What would I do if this were a movie isn't usually the best course of action. Blasting in your eyes in the middle of the night will probably get you arrested, not into her panties. Don't get the reference? Watch the classics, you Philistines! Anyway, good news! Writing the word help in huge letters in the sand is now officially a movie cliche that works. 3 friends set off from the island of Pulap in the Federated States of Micronesia on April 4th, but a few hours later were hurled into the sea after strong waves capsized their boat. They swam through the dark ocean before finally making it to the uninhabited Fandandik Island, about 4 miles from Pulap. As hours turned to days, the men were reported missing and the U.S. Coast Guard responded to requests for assistance. Now, the Pacific Ocean is kind of big, and even if you do make it to some tiny speck of land, as Tom Hanks and Wilson proved, finding you can still be very tricky. Luckily, however, going into movie mode worked for these 3 unidentified castaways who used palm leaves to spell out "help" on the beach. The men waved their life jackets as they stood near the word, and success! A U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidon aircraft spotted the sign, and the men were rescued less than 4 days into their ordeal. So do write "help" in great big huge letters on the beach, but we recommend waiting as long as possible before eating any of your fellow castaways. Any professional survivalists out there? Tell us what other movie tips are good ideas and which ones are straight up dumb. Who knows? You might save a life or two. Ex-Saints defensive end Will Smith shot and killed in road rage incident. Former Saints defensive end Will Smith was shot and killed in New Orleans on Saturday night following a road rage incident. The shooting occurred around 11:29 p.m., close to the intersection of Sophie Wright Place and Felicity Street in the Lower Garden District. Smith and his wife were in his Mercedes G63 SUV, following some friends in a Chevrolet Impala, when their car was rear-ended by a Hummer H2, causing Smith's vehicle to run into the Impala. Apparently, Smith and the driver of the Hummer, 28-year-old Cardell Hayes, exchanged some heated words. Hayes then pulled out a handgun and shot Smith multiple times in the back and torso. He also shot Smith's wife twice in the right leg. Smith was pronounced dead at the scene. Raquel Smith was taken to the hospital and treated for non-life-threatening wounds. Hayes was arrested on charges of second-degree murder. Excessive lead found in New York water systems. A recent analysis of EPA records have found lead levels in some New York water systems to be over the legal limit. 82 water systems were recently found to have lead levels in excess of the federal action limit in New York State. These include 16 schools or daycare centers that have their own water systems. Lead exposure is especially dangerous for young children. When children are exposed to high levels of lead, it attacks their brain and central nervous system. This can lead to convulsions, a coma, or even death. Low amounts of exposure can also lead to developmental issues in the child's brain, influencing everything from IQ to memory and behavioral problems. High levels of lead exposure in pregnant women can lead to miscarriage and stillbirth. Low amounts of exposure in adults can also lead to high blood pressure and even kidney damage. Doctors reveal the reason behind a botched uterus transplant. Doctors revealed last Friday that the United States' first attempt at a uterus transplant earlier this year failed due to an extremely ubiquitous culprit, a common species of yeast. The first uterus transplant in the United States in late February involved removing the uterus, cervix, and part of the vagina from an organ donor and moving the organs into 26-year-old Lindsay McFarland. 2 weeks after the surgery, complications arose due to a yeast infection. The species of yeast responsible usually resides alongside other microbes in the body. However, a weaker immune system caused by the medication McFarland was taking after the surgery may have allowed the yeast to spread in her organs. The infection ended up affecting McFarland's arteries and prevented blood flow to her uterus. McFarland started to bleed heavily due to the infection and was rushed to the hospital, and doctors were forced to remove the affected transplanted uterus. Doctors say that McFarland, the mother of 3 adopted children, is now doing well after her surgery to remove the transplant. More than 100 dead, hundreds more injured in fireworks display gone wrong. A pyrotechnic disaster at a Hindu temple sparked a massive fire in one of the worst fireworks-related tragedies in southern India on Sunday. A fireworks show during religious festivities at a temple in Kerala drew a crowd of around 15,000 early on April 10th. The fireworks were being stored in a structure within the temple complex and contained explosives such as gunpowder, potassium chloride, and ammonium nitrate. Around 3:30 a.m., a stray piece from the display landed in the structure, its spark setting off the rest of the fireworks in storage. The resulting explosion created an inferno and destroyed other structures nearby. The force of the blast was felt as far as 50 feet away, with collapsed power lines and damaged buildings. At least 106 people have been reported killed in the incident, with another 383 injured sent to hospital. The fireworks show was carried out despite being denied approval by local authorities due to safety concerns. Police in Kerala have started a criminal investigation into the incident, opening a case against temple officials and the fireworks contractor.